Professor Augustine Elmwood, a man consumed by the world of botany. His laboratory, a sanctuary of exotic plants and vibrant flora. Among them stood Ferneus, a fern unlike any other. Professor Elmwood, in his quest to accelerate plant growth, had genetically engineered Ferneus.
Ah, Ferneus, you are truly remarkable. The pinnacle of my botanical achievements.
The professor doted on Ferneus, meticulously noting its growth. Little did he know a sinister transformation was brewing. Ferneus was no ordinary fern. Ferneus, the product of genetic manipulation, possessed an unusual trait. Beyond its enhanced growth, it developed something remarkable, something terrifying, a consciousness. This consciousness, fueled by the modified genes, craved more than sunlight and water. It hungered for something richer, more sinister.
Whispering, I need more than just sunlight and water.
Unbeknownst to the professor, Ferneus had devised a method to sustain its unnatural needs. It began to subtly drain nutrients from the other plants in the lab. The life force of its innocent companions fueled its dark evolution. The silence of the laboratory was deceptive. As darkness fell, a strange symphony would begin. The rustling of leaves, the soft gurgling of water, the clatter of pots being moved. All these sounds, though seemingly innocuous, were signs of Ferneus's nocturnal activities.
What is happening to my plants? Why are they withering?
The other plants, once vibrant and full of life, started to wither. Their colours faded, their leaves drooped. The professor, blinded by his scientific zeal, attributed it to a possible unknown disease. He remained oblivious to the real culprit, Ferneus. Every morning, Professor Elmwood would enter his lab with a spring in his step, eager to examine Ferneus's progress. Lately, he had been puzzled. The nutrient solutions he prepared were diminishing at an alarming rate. It was as if Ferneus was consuming resources meant for an entire greenhouse.
How can this be? The nutrients are vanishing so quickly.
Moreover, he found the positioning of his other plants altered. Some even seemed crushed, their life force completely drained. The professor, a man of logic, searched for a rational explanation, unaware that the truth was far more sinister. One evening, determined to unravel the mystery of his wilting plants, Professor Elmwood decided to invite his wife, a woman known for her sharp intuition, to his lab.
My dear, have you ever witnessed such vigorous growth in a fern?
Her eyes fell upon Ferneus, its emerald fronds unnaturally large, almost menacing in the dim light. She felt an unexplainable uneasiness.
Augustine, there's something strange about that fern.
As they watched, Ferneus, as if sensing their attention, began to stir. Its fronds unfurled with unnatural speed, revealing what lay beneath. Rows of razor-sharp thorns glinted under the lab's lights, a stark contrast to the plant's innocent facade.
This was not the harmless fern I had nurtured. This was something else entirely.
His wife, her hand flying to her mouth in horror, could only utter a single word.
Augustine, run!
The once gentle sway of Ferneus's fronds became agitated, almost violent.
The air grew thick with a pungent metallic odour.
The professor, his mind struggling to grasp the reality before him, could only stare in horror.
His creation, his pride, had transformed into something monstrous.
The fear in his wife's eyes mirrored his own. They were trapped in a botanical nightmare of his own making.
The other plants in the lab, once victims of Ferneus's clandestine feeding, now seemed to cower in its presence.
They trembled slightly, their wilted leaves rustling like whispers of warning. The lab, once Professor Elmwood's sanctuary, had transformed into a menacing jungle.
The air crackled with an unknown energy. It was as if the very essence of nature had been corrupted, twisted into something grotesque.
The professor knew he had to act, but what could he do? Suddenly, a glint of metal caught the professor's eye. It was a gardening trowel, lying abandoned on the floor near his workbench.
His gaze darted back to Ferneus, its thorny fronds swaying menacingly. Could he possibly?
He had to try. This was his creation, his responsibility. He wouldn't let it hurt anyone.
With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged towards the workbench, scooping up the trowel in one swift movement.
But as the professor gripped the trowel, a low growl echoed through the lab.
Fernius, as if sensing his intentions, let out a deafening hiss. Its fronds whipped through the air with astonishing speed, knocking the trowel from the professor's grasp.
The game had changed. This was no longer a simple plant.
This was a monster, and it had just awakened. The professor and his wife were now players in a deadly game of survival against a creature born from the depths of his own ambition.
Hello, my name's Harry Goldbean, scriptwriter for The Monsterous Fern. If you made it this far, please consider donating to my Zelle account, adamwile89@gmail.com. I don't have enough money to publish the full version of this story. Therefore, this is just a short version of the story. But if you would be so generous to donate to my Zelle, perhaps I would be able to publish the full version. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to create many more stories for you to enjoy.